Okay. Welcome back to the show, everybody. We're good to go here. So yeah. So we're gonna get into recent news with Charlie Kirk's possible assassin, Tyler Robinson. We're gonna get into there's a bunch of stories I want to get into tonight. I mean, this is the biggest one that's recently in development as of right now. But I also want to get into currently as well. I want to watch this, but this is the biggest thing I want to see. But yeah, so we're gonna get into this. We're gonna watch this, and yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I haven't watched anything really on this so far today. So we're gonna see, and let's see what this guy has to say. He looks like a freaking weirdo. I mean, look at his hairline already, dude. Like, I mean, I wouldn't trust that guy. Sorry, I got an itch in my back. All right, but yeah, let's get into this. Let's watch this. Let's see what's going on. Let's check it out.
Who is and is not an appropriate member of the public. I think they have a unique relationship with Mr. Robinson, and they would certainly abide by any orders the court makes concerning disclosure of what is discussed in closed session. But obviously, it's up to the court.
Thank you, Mr. Novak. I'm going to rule that they will be excluded as well. It is just given the nature and the sensitivity of it, I believe it is appropriate to treat all parties in the public equally, though I do recognize their relationship with Mr. Robinson. Thank you for your request. All right, we will go into the closed session.
All right, as you see, those were the moments that happened just at the top of the hour as the accused Charlie Kirk assassin Tyler Robinson made his first appearance there in the Utah courtroom. We wanted to make sure we brought you some of those moments in case you missed it. Very brief, only about 4 minutes of what we were able to show.
Dude, that lawyer looks stressed. You see the lawyer? The lawyer right behind him, the one in like the cardigan to his left and that like, I don't know, like white jacket, dude, she looks stressed as shit. She looks stressed, bro. It hasn't even begun yet, and she looks like she's a little pressed here
on camera there as well. And so to talk a lot more about what's happening behind the scenes, I now want to bring into the conversation legal analyst Nima Rahmani. Nima, thanks so much for being with us here on Live Now from Fox. This is a huge day. It's one that a lot of people have been really waiting on as Tyler Robinson had his first appearance in court in this Charlie Kirk hearing. It's interesting, though, because there's a lot of things happening behind the scenes about what media access we have as these court proceedings are now starting to go. You listened to all of that. What were some of your major takeaways?
Well, Christina, thanks for having me as always. Obviously, big day in the Tyler Robinson, Charlie Kirk case. And there's three things going on, and there's actually three separate parts of this hearing. This first part that is closed relates to court security. The defense has asked for there not to be cameras in the courtroom, and the Utah County Sheriff's Department has also asked for there not to be cameras in the courtroom. If there are cameras, the defense is not going to want to have any video or images of Tyler Robinson being shackled.
Come on, man. Dude, make it public, bro. Make this I would make it public. I mean, you should make it public. This should be a public thing. Like, Charlie Kirk didn't get to have a private death. You know what I mean? Like, his death was not private. And like the fact that, you know, that this guy doesn't want it to be public. He doesn't want to be known in public shackles. I mean, from all the evidence of what we've seen, this guy was clearly there. And from what we've seen, from the video evidence, evidently, dude, this guy most likely did it. From what everything looks like, the fact that they're worried about him being in shackles and how that looks on camera is ridiculous. It is so ridiculous. This is the closest guy. This is the suspect. This is from everything in terms of who this guy is, who the shooter was. You know, this guy doesn't deserve a private, whoever it was. We don't know 100% sure. We're not sure if this guy did it or not. From what it seems like, he most likely did it. But whoever it might be, it doesn't deserve. It shouldn't be a private thing.
Being in orange jumpsuits or other prison
Who
garb. They think
cares?
that's too prejudicial, and potential jurors will see that and think that he's already guilty. That's why in these cases you regularly see criminal defendants in civilian clothes. So obviously this is a very high profile case, one of the most watched cases in the entire country, maybe even the world. When you have the president of the United States talking about a case, that's a big deal. So once court security is addressed, then the judge will reopen the hearing to the public, and we're going to have a pretty lengthy and robust discussion about cameras in the courtroom. Now, some states and the federal system don't allow cameras, but Utah is one of the ones that does. But it is up to the discretion of the judge. And there's two issues that we're dealing with here, Christina. There's the First Amendment, the freedom of the press, and there are news outlets like Fox News and Live Now and the Associated Press that want to broadcast the proceedings, gavel to gavel. And the defense doesn't want it because they think that it prejudices their client. So this is...
Dude, I hope that judge... So they allow it in Utah. So you can have cameras in the courtroom. That is allowed. I think, my personal opinion, let it be known. Dude, Charlie Kirk did not get a private death. That was not what was taken from him, possibly by this guy. That was not given to him. He didn't get that. He didn't get a private death. It was a public death. And I think even Erica Kirk has said that she wants it to be televised. She wants this to be public. I think this should be public. I don't think that... I don't know. I think that it should be televised. It definitely should. For the people's sake, too. I think the people need to see this and they need to watch it. And I think that, yeah, a lot of people will make the argument, well, it's going to stir a lot of people up. It's going to rile this. It's going to add more gas to the fire. And it's like, look, dude, this guy, we need to see. I mean, from what we've seen so far, there's other videos as well, like with like guys' analysis. We'll probably watch that after this video, but we need to see this. Like, this needs, if we get a Johnny Depp trial with Amber Heard and we hear that, you know, Amber Heard is taking a shit in Johnny Depp's bed, we should get a live trial for this case.
Where the First Amendment, the freedom of the press, rubs up against the Sixth Amendment, the right to a fair trial. So we're going to expect to see pretty lengthy discussion of that. Now, the prosecution has taken a more neutral position, but both the defense and law enforcement don't want cameras there for different reasons. One is the potential for prejudice. The other is for security reasons. But we do have a presumption of open access to courtrooms in this country. So it's going to be interesting to see what the judge does. Lastly, the judge is going to address extrajudicial statements. So what does that mean? Those are statements outside the courtroom. So we're talking about a potential gag order. And the gag order might not be limited to just the lawyers and the parties in the case. It may be limited to victims as well. And I'm talking about Erica Kirk. So if you remember the Brian Kohberger case, because the victims' families in those cases, they may have been witnesses in the penalty portion of the case. We're talking about the death penalty. The judge says, you cannot talk about the case because you may be someone who's going to be testifying before the jurors in this case. So it's going to be interesting to see how the judge rules on that latter issue as well. So 3 different things: security, cameras, and a potential gag order are all going to be addressed today.
It's going to be interesting, Nima, like you said, because you talked about the fact that this case is far-reaching, maybe even one of the most popular cases in the world right now. I want to put up this live vantage point that we have of the White House. Just for this, Nima, we know that President Trump has also talked about this. He appeared at Charlie Kirk's public memorial service that was hosted in Phoenix, Arizona as well, and made several remarks. But right after Robinson was arrested, President Trump said, with a high degree of certainty, we have him. and he said, I hope he gets the death penalty. When it comes to this case
Yeah.
and the discussion about the right to a
Yeah, he does. Like, good for President Trump, dude. He doesn't give a shit. Rightfully so. Good for him. Yeah, you shouldn't give a shit. I think if this guy is proven, if this is proven, where to the point where this guy, from what it seems like, inevitably did it, and they do a live trial and it shows that this is the guy that did this shit, yeah, he should receive the death penalty. 1,000%. 1,000%. And I think that if that were to happen, if this guy were to receive the death penalty, I think that what it would do is that it would ultimately, I think, put the stop on all the conspiracy theories when it comes to, was this guy a CIA asset? Was this guy a Mossad asset? Was this guy what was he affiliated with a foreign government? I think that it would put that I think it would put it to rest, simply because, I think it's hard to get someone to push someone or train someone, have them take the fall, and then, they end up dead. They end up facing the death penalty, and then they get killed or they get, executed. I don't think any trained, agent is going to do that. I simply just don't think that's the case. I don't think that that's true. I mean, there's no evidence that shows the fact that this guy's a foreign spy, a foreign agent that would do something like that. But yeah, I think if he gets the death penalty, and if he gets killed, or, he gets executed under the death penalty, I think that would put a lot of those conspiracy theories to rest.
fair trial and certain extra statements that have been made that you just said as part 3 of this. How does the president even fit into this? Could this gag order extend all the way up the channel to the highest office in the land?
Potentially, yes. I mean, we saw it in the Luigi Mangione case, where the judge in that case told Attorney General Pam Bondi to stop talking about the case because it may prejudice the potential jurors. So obviously, we know that Charlie Kirk was such a public figure. The images and the videos of his murder were broadcast and on social media. We've all seen it. Obviously, the most powerful man.
Yeah, that was bad, man. Dude, I'll never forget seeing that. I'll never forget seeing that. It's one of those, with the assassination of Charlie, it's something that you will never forget, where you were when it happened, and just like the shock of just that. You're just like, I remember looking at it. I opened Twitter, and immediately I was like, oh my God, he's dead. And when you see something like that, you're just like, at first, and I also thought it was AI generated. I thought it was fake. I was like, oh, this is real. This is AI. It's fake. It's not real. And then, but before that, my phone started getting blown up where people were like, Charlie Kirk got shot, Charlie Kirk shot, dead, whatever, all that. And I was like, what? And then you open Twitter and you see that, and you're just like the only one before Charlie Kirk's death that really shocked me was Kobe in 2020. Kobe's death in 2020 with his daughter was terrible as well. Very shocking. But you I don't know. It's just these deaths that you remember exactly where you were when it happened. So,
in the world is talking about this murder trial. So the judge needs to balance the public interest and the media interest in this case with Tyler Robinson's right to a fair trial, because let's not forget, I mean, the state is trying to put him to death. And in a death penalty case, there are mandatory state and federal appeals. So you don't want to get this wrong and have an appellate judge say, you know what, he didn't get a right to a free trial. I'm going to overturn his death sentence or even overturn his convictions. Now, I'm a big believer in transparency. And I think there are a lot of conspiracy theories out there. People think that someone else killed Charlie Kirk, maybe even a foreign government killed him. And I
Yeah,
think having those
for sure.
open proceedings
Yeah.
are important, not just for media outlets and talking heads like myself, but so members of the public, they actually
Dude, good on this guy, man. This guy's got balls to even say that out loud. Because when he says foreign governments, he's clearly implying Israel. I mean, that's something you're not even supposed to. That guy's got balls, dude. Like, good for this guy, man. Because that's something you're not even supposed to insinuate. You're not even supposed to bring that topic up here. And the fact that he is, yeah, dude, that's pretty wild. Good for him.
see the evidence against Tyler Robinson, and they can make their own determination. So today's ruling obviously isn't going to turn on guilt or innocence, but it's going to have far-reaching implications for this case.
I think it's interesting because you also brought up the Bill of Rights. You said the first 10 amendments there that are part of the U.S. Constitution, really the foundation of what we stand for in this country, are at play with two major ones going against each other. Have you seen this in other cases, and how does this typically shape out? And with this decision that's made, because it's ultimately going to be on the judge, that has to be a lot to bear to be able to interpret the law to that degree.
This season on Pluto.
Yeah, man, it's yeah, it's bad. It's bad shit, man. I hope justice is served. I hope they find a way to provide all the evidence. I mean, they're going to go off of what they have. I bet they have more that they haven't shared with the public. I wish the FBI was much more transparent when it came to this stuff, but I mean, they're just not. They're just fucking, they're full of shit. They're total fuckheads, but yeah. Fine. Dude, that judge looks like, dude, look at his face. He's just like, he's like, what the fuck? He's like, bro, this is unbelievable. He's like, this is crazy of a case. I think he has, this judge looks like he has some, he's pissed. Deep down, this judge is like, he's trying to be very professional. And he's like, yep. Mm-hmm. Okay. And would the jurors please rise? Kind of like that. And yeah, this guy looks, I think this guy would give this, I mean, if the evidence shows the fact that this guy did it, he would give this guy the death penalty for sure. Wow. Hmm. And see, this is where people get they're like, this guy doesn't look the same. They look like two different people. Like, what's going on here? Very weird. And maybe they'll show a photo of his face here in a second, because I believe there is one. Damn, dude. Good. I think that's also why she's been quiet on all of this. I think that's why she hasn't responded when I'm talking about Erica Kirk. She hasn't responded to, you know, I guess you could say, like, the conspiracy theories are surrounding Charlie Kirk's death, and, you know, who this guy is, insinuating all this stuff. And because it just adds on to that. And yeah, it paints this guy as the criminal, and that this guy did it. And I do get that. I do get the outside factor in that. Just say, hey, don't talk about that. Because if you do that, then you got to go through this all over again and give him a fair retrial. And it's just like, it just makes the process go so much longer. And it's not what you want. Oh, he's not going to stop. Yeah, you don't do that. Damn. Oh shit. Like this. Debbie Day. You have to be kidding me. No way the audio was off. That's hilarious. God damn it.
Hey everybody, Dr. G.
Okay. We're going to watch this guy. See if this is good. Okay. Let's get into this. I was eyeballing this, and I'm like, yeah, I want to see what this guy has to say. So this guy is an analyst. So we'll see what he has to say.
Is a body language expert, and today we're going to be analyzing the behavior and body language of Tyler Robinson, the man accused of assassinating Charlie Kirk. Before we get started with this, a couple of quick things. One, I wanted to make sure you know this is not a psychological evaluation of any kind. These are just my opinions. In addition to that, I do want to remind you to like and subscribe if you want to see more content just like this. All right, let's go. Within days of Charlie Kirk's assassination on September 10th of this year, Tyler Robinson was arrested. What we're going to be looking at today is his first in-court appearance. All right, let's just jump right in. If you've been following this case, you may have already seen the body cam footage that he was on. You may have also seen his first court appearance. One thing that we've seen from Tyler Robinson is that he can come across as a bit awkward. So that's probably what we're going to see more of today. What we're seeing.
Yeah, dude, he looks autistic as shit. Not gonna lie, he looks very autistic. I mean, this guy is a kid. This is a kid too, dude. This guy's like what, 21? 22? And he's already balding. And yeah, it's not a good look.
Right now is that he's basically sitting up very straight, looking around a little bit. We're not seeing any particular emotion coming off of him right now, though. And something that we frequently see in early hearings, there tends to be a lot of anxiety. There tends to be a lot of soothing behaviors. We'll see if he shows that today.
Dude, oh my God.
Now, one thing you may already be noticing is that his posture tends to be very upright. Something that we saw previously is that he tends to be a rule follower. That doesn't mean that he can't break laws, doesn't mean that he isn't guilty of what he was accused of, but he does come across as someone who is trying to follow the rules. And I think that's very much what we're seeing in his posture right now.
Okay.
And just to be clear, the opposite of that would be if he was slouching in his chair, if he was leaning back, if he was rocking back in his chair, if he was doing something that felt inappropriate for court, because we see that all the time. Right now, you see him puffing up his cheeks. Now, interestingly, from a body language standpoint, this is not something we typically do to self-soothe. He seems to be self-entertaining. So right now, he doesn't seem stressed at all. We're not seeing any sort of anxiety. We're really not seeing a lot of stress right now. So,
dude, that's kind of wild. If that's true, I don't know how accurate that might be, but to not feel any stress, dude. Yeah, that's kind of... Well, that is like the definition of being a psychopath, right? Like you don't feel the emotion. So you're just like, you feel no emotion or empathy, so you don't give a shit. I mean, that guy, he could be labeled as just a full-blown psychopath.
it's interesting to see him do that.
Typical behavior of a psychopath.
He's also responding well. Those are little things that we look at which are important because some people might claim that someone is out of their mind or that there's some other issue. He's being very clearly interacting appropriately with his attorneys. Now, one thing that's interesting about Tyler Robinson is how minimal his facial expressions are. When he was responding to that attorney a second ago, he said, yeah, or something to that effect. And there was just no movement outside of his mouth moving. And typically when we're interacting with somebody, our eyebrows raise a little bit. There tends to be more movement in the face. He just doesn't have much.
How nuts would it be if this guy pleads
So you can see him adjusting his tie.
not guilty? Do you know how nuts that would be? If this guy pleads not guilty, it would be bad news bears.
Making sure that he looks appropriate. So how he's coming across, how he's looking, his posture, all of that clearly is something that's important to him. And that's not always the case with people in court. If you watch enough hearings, if you see enough people in court, some people really don't care about those things, and they just aren't aware of them. So this does show that he's very aware of how he's going to come across, and he does seem, as I've said before, he does seem a little bit rigid. Now you do see him moving left to right in his chair, which does suggest some nervous energy. We're not seeing any of it on his face, but that rocking does tend to soothe us a little bit, so that's probably what he's doing right here.
You see that? You see the lawyer? She barely took a drink, dude. Look at this. She barely takes a drink of her hint. What is this washed up way of drinking? She got nothing out of that. Oh my God.
And it looks like he's smiling right here. He's clearly not so nervous that he can't have interactions with people that make him feel good or that make him smile, which is interesting because sometimes these situations are too heavy for people to do that. Something else that's interesting is how little he leans in when he's talking to somebody. This may seem like a normal amount of space, and it is for some people, but everybody's a little bit different with that. For him, he does tend to leave a lot of space when he's talking to this attorney right now, rather than leaning in a little bit further. So he may be somebody who has very rigid boundaries with most people.
Hmm.
And there he is smiling again. So it seems like there's a certain amount of levity to this for him. He's able to put the heaviness of the situation aside.
This guy seems comfortable, man. Yeah, he seems very comfortable. I wonder what the comments have to say on this. See what they have to say. That's a good point. Yeah, I agree with that too. I don't think he acted alone. I'll just say that. I think he was the shooter. I think he was the guy that did this. But let me say that I don't think he was alone. There's no way. I mean, there's texts and there's evidence that shows the fact that he was communicating about this thing. Well, not with other people, but there's Discord chats and there's actually Twitter accounts that have stated that Charlie Kirk is going to go on this day. Like there is Twitter accounts out there that have posted that, which is very difficult to, it's scary. It's weird. Those people should be questioned. And, if he has any affiliation with those people or if they're just bots or where actually, now with Twitter, you could actually see the location of where those accounts, what were these accounts where they're based out of. So I would love to see where those accounts are based out of.
Have you ever Googled your own name or email address? Before I had Aura, I did, and wow, it was.
Yeah, I got you, dude. Sorry.
All right, back to the analysis. Now, one thing I want you to pay attention to, I want you to watch his eyebrows. When we talk and we want people to pay attention to what we're saying, we very generally raise our eyebrows a little bit, particularly when we're making a specific point, if we really want somebody to hear what we're saying. And right now, you're not seeing any of that from him, which goes back to the fact that he has very minimal facial expressions. So there was a little bit just now. But as I said earlier, he's keeping a lot of a distance from this attorney. We naturally tend to lean into people when we're talking to them, particularly in a situation like this, because we don't want to talk too loud. So generally speaking, we get a little bit closer with people. He may be somebody that keeps people at arm's distance because he really is staying pretty far away from his attorney. You can see she's leaning in a little bit. He's leaning back a little bit. So it's interesting that he has these boundaries around others. One thing I've said before, but I stand by because seeing him in court reminds me of him again, is he reminds me so much of Bryan Kohberger. For those of you unfamiliar with Bryan Kohberger, he was recently incarcerated and pled guilty to the murder of 4 college students. I'm not saying he reminds me of Bryan Kohberger because they're both guilty or whatever. I'm not giving any indication of this man's guilt nor innocence, but their presentation, the way they come across, the way they behave in court is very, very similar.
Interesting. I don't know. I think what I think will happen. I think if he pleads not guilty, that would be nuts, and take it to trial, which would ultimately cost him his life. It would cost him his life for sure. Because if they prove that he's in fact guilty, shit, they would they would simply put him on, they put him on the electric chair. Now, however, they don't do electric chairs anymore. I know they do lethal injection, but I think he'll probably plead guilty. I'm not gonna lie. I think he'll plead guilty, and he'll strike up a case, where he can stay alive. I think that's what'll happen. So that's what'll happen, unfortunately, and he'll be in prison for the rest of his life.
All rise. Fourth day, 2002, the Honorable Tony F. Graff Jr. presides.
Counsel, if you could enter your appearances, please.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Kathy Nestor, excuse me, Richard Novak, Stacy Visser, on behalf of Mr. Robinson.
Good afternoon.
Now, part of what we're doing right now is trying to establish a baseline of Tyler Robinson's behaviors. We're trying to get what his normal behaviors are, because if this is all streamed during the trial, then sometimes those behaviors might change. It'll let us know what stands out as exceptional. Now, right now, one thing that I noticed is that when the attorney was introducing them to the judge, you didn't see Tyler Robinson smile or nod. Typically, people do that. So there may be certain behaviors that other people do automatically that he doesn't engage in. It's not a good or bad thing. It just is.
Richard Novak, Stacy Visser, on behalf of Mr. Robinson.
Good afternoon. Have authority that supports allowing them to remain in a closed hearing?
No, I think it's subject to the court's discretion to decide who is and is not an appropriate member of the public. I think they have a unique relationship with Mr. Robinson, and they would certainly abide by any orders the court makes concerning disclosure of what is discussed in closed session. But obviously, it's up to the court.
Thank you, Mr. Novak. I'm going to rule that they will be
We are seeing some stress from Tyler Robinson right now. Seeing a big...
Yeah, now he's like, shit, dude. Yeah, very true. It looks like now he's like, okay, it's going. We're kicking off here now. All right, we're going through the process.
breath in, big breath out. So he is affected by these things. He just doesn't show it as much as your average person.
It's up to the court.
Thank you, Mr. Novak. I'm going to rule that they will be excluded as well. It is just given the nature and the sensitivity of it.
Now, we just skipped over a good chunk. They were out of the courtroom. They had the closed door meeting. This is them back in the courtroom while they're waiting for the judge.
God, he looks...
Now, if you've watched my channel before, I always point this out when somebody looks at the camera. Because what that means is it means that they're reminded of. There is an awareness that they are being watched, and sometimes that can change behavior. Because sometimes it makes people anxious. Sometimes it makes them do things differently. So let's see what Tyler Robinson does when he looks at the camera. Right now, that's the reminder that he is, in fact, being watched. And then you saw the mouth moving around. Now, typically, that's what we do when we're trying to soothe ourselves. So something about the reminder that he's being watched, the fact that this is being streamed, may have made him anxious because he looks directly at the camera, then starts moving his mouth. Right around the mouth is where a lot of nerves are. That's what calms us down. So the reminder that he's being recorded seemed to be anxiety-provoking for him.
Good. Dude, he just seems so weird, this guy. Seems absolutely fucking weird. So weird.
Now we're seeing more anxious body language after that closed door meeting. It's just a big swallow. You see him doing more with his mouth and his teeth. And the mouth and teeth, like I said, there's lots of nerves there. So when we are actively doing things around our mouth, when we're doing things with our tongue, that tends to be soothing. We're just seeing more of that from him right now. And now we're actually seeing more from his eyebrows, because earlier I mentioned you weren't seeing much out of the brow at all, which is very automatic. It's very involuntary when we raise our eyebrows. Now we're actually seeing him do that more. If you notice just now, he scratched the side of his head, and the behavior was so minimal. It's like he's hyper aware of how people.
You know, it's like that sketch with like Dave Chappelle, or like Dave Chappelle does a bit on OJ, where Dave Chappelle had, met up with OJ for like, I think it was like the third time. He had met OJ like 3 or 4 times. He does a funny bit on that, and he gets to the 4th time he meets OJ and he meets up with him. And after the 4th time he met O.J. Simpson, he's like, yeah, that motherfucker did that shit. That's kind of like what you're getting here with like Robinson, like that. I'm starting to like get a sense of like looking at this dude. Looks very off, looks very strange. You're just like, yeah, that guy could have done that shit.
Are looking at him, but at the same time lacks certain degrees of social awareness. And earlier I talked about how he doesn't lean in very much to his attorney. You may think that, well, he's restrained and so he can't. But really, if you watch a lot of trials, if you watch a lot of hearings, even people that are fully handcuffed and that are strapped to their chair, they will still lean in further to their attorneys. So once again, it goes to show that he does seem to have pretty rigid boundaries around other people.
Dude, that hairline's atrocious, bro. The motherfucker's balding. He's going to be bald in 5 years.
And I would describe a lot of this behavior as just uncomfortable. Not anxious necessarily, just uncomfortable. But then he does go back with the lips. Maybe there is a little bit of anxiety. You saw him lick his lips, withdraw his lips, moving his mouth around.
It's in the eyes, man. It's always in the fucking eyes. You could tell. You're just like, ooh. It just seems, man. It just seems like that. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
Now, obviously, right now we're getting a very extreme close-up of Tyler Robinson, but it does seem that he has a hard time knowing where to put his eyes. When he's looking around, he continues to shift his gaze, doesn't really know where to look. All right, let's go and wrap things up. Hopefully this is helping you better understand some of the behavior and body language that we saw today. We got an interesting duality. On the one hand, we saw someone who was rigid, who would almost sit up too straight, who would straighten his tie, make sure that he came across exactly how he wanted, set rigid boundaries with those around him, didn't move a whole lot. On the other hand, there were times where he would let loose. You saw him laughing. You saw him smile a little bit with his attorneys. And so we got somebody who was both overly rigid and then let loose at times and could almost be casual. There were some moments where he seemed pretty anxious. There were times where he seemed uncomfortable. But at the same time, overall, he showed a lot less facial expressions than most people do. A lot less than most people do in situations like this. As I mentioned previously in this video and others, there's a quality to him that does seem similar to how Brian Kohberger presented in court. Now, the goal of today's video is to not talk about his guilt nor his innocence. It's just to provide commentary based on the body language that we're observing. And I'll be curious if, as this continues, we see different body language, if this is consistent. We've really gained a baseline today.
I'm just so shocked that they haven't. I from what I've seen so far, I think that this guy is obviously weird. I think that's for sure. I think that he's an odd, weird guy. I think he's strange. Does that mean he's guilty? No, but it is weird, strange.
Of what his behavior and body language looks like. Now, one of the interesting aspects of this case that is probably going to complicate things are all the conspiracy theories surrounding this. I'm not addressing any of those today. There have been times in other videos where I've talked some about that, and we'll probably get into those again, but there's really nothing we're going to get into specifically about that today. But I do know that those are certainly impacting how people are talking about this case and how people are seeing his behavior in court. If you have any other thoughts about this, or if there's anything else you want to analyze, please let me know in the comments below. Last thing before we get finished up is I do want to remind you to like and subscribe if you want to see more content just like this. All right, thanks for watching.
What's so special about Domino's?
Yeah, man, that's quite unfortunate. Oh, they have the whole thing. Here's the short. Ah. Yeah, that's
I'm very concerned about that. So I think it would be appropriate if they are going to be added to the docket that it be reasonable, perhaps just the two entities that are requesting, the two conglomerate entities that are requesting, and that there be an order from the court saying if they receive something that they shouldn't have, they notify us in the court immediately and they delete it, they don't review it. At a minimum, I think that's necessary. But I also think it would be reasonable for this court not to put them on the docket for that very same reason. So we don't think that they should have permanent status
notes,
in this
bro?
case. We don't dispute that they are going to be here. They're already here, as we well know. But we do think how that happens is important, and that this court should exercise its authority to make very clear what everyone's roles are here. And as I believe they put in their briefing, that they are neutral observers. Neutral observers. We don't want the chaos that is out in the media in this courtroom. So whatever this court can do to prevent that is what we're asking. Does the court have any questions for me?
No, thank you.
Thank you.
She seems nervous, bro.
Counsel, is there anything further that we need to address today?
Thanks, Your Honor. Yes, just the matter of having Mrs. Erica Kirk designated as the victim representative in this case. She has filed through her counsel a request to be designated as the victim representative, and we would like the court to formally acknowledge that request and formally designate her as the victim representative. And I guess along those lines, I wanted to make clear as well, I think this court stated earlier that there was an alleged victim in this case. And I know that there is case law talking about being careful about how we refer to victims and alleged victims. But in this case, that case law makes clear that those cautions don't apply with the same degree, where it's clear that we have a victim.
Dude, look at these security guards in the back, man. These two guys in the back. Oh, dude, they look like they would just... They look like they'd be Charlie Kirk fans. Not gonna lie. Dude, this fucking kid, man. What an idiot. What an idiot this guy is, man. If he did this shit, what a fucking idiot.
Victim who was killed in this case. We don't have an alleged victim. We have an alleged perpetrator. But we do know that we have a victim in this case.
Thank you, Mr. Ballard. I'll hear from the parties.
Your Honor, on behalf of Mr. Robinson, we certainly think it's appropriate for Mrs. Kirk to be designated as the victim representative, if that is the desire of the state, just so there can be no doubt that she's afforded all of the rights assured to her under our state statutes, and we have no objection to that.
Thank you. Thank you to all parties. This court will recognize Ms. Erica Kirk as the designated victim representative in this case. Thank you. Counsel, I believe that concludes our matters for the day.
One more
Or maybe
matter,
not.
Judge. If I can take the podium, Judge?
Yes, Mr. Germander.
The purpose, I want to just give the...
Dude, what's with the smile, bro?
Day.
One more
Or maybe
matter,
not.
Judge. If I can take the podium, Judge?
Yes, Mr. Germander.
The purpose, I want to just give the court an update with respect to discovery. We've done that at previous
Thank you. I
hearings.
appreciate that.
The state has received approximately 13,900 files from law enforcement in this case. Approximately 300 of those we believe are duplicates. We have since provided to counsel, as of I believe this morning, 7,951 of those files. For the court's information, we had reached close to 100% had been disseminated as of last week, but we received quite a large batch within the last few days. So we were working on that. We still have a full-time paralegal that's dedicated to reviewing that, organizing it, Bates stamping it, and sending it out to counsel. Of course, there are necessary.
All right, moving on. Yeah, well, my thoughts on this is that it's horrible, it's messed up, and obviously, yeah, no shit, Louie. Yeah, it's fucking messed up. Yeah, it's horrible. Let's watch this video, and then I'm gonna let's watch this last.
It's been 3 months.
Let's watch that video if they show it, and then I want to watch that video of him on the rooftop again running. And then we'll close up with some Sharon. Maybe not. I kind of want to watch a video on Sharon Moore real quick because that story's hilarious. But screw it. We'll just watch this, and then we'll see.
It's been 3 months since the shocking assassination of Charlie Kirk. Today, the 22-year-old suspect accused of gunning down the father of two made his first appearance.
I just want the video of the fucking rooftop, bro. They don't show it. All right. Maybe let's watch. Let's see the news on Sharon Moore. Fucking dummy, that guy. Sharon. Really? I spelled it wrong. Yeah. Let's watch this shit, dude. Okay, so for people that don't know, what happened with Sharon Moore today was pretty nuts. So Sharon Moore, he's been cheating on his wife for the last 2 years. And what he did is that he's been cheating not only on his wife, but he's been cheating on her with an assistant for the team for Michigan. And so while he's cheating on her, how they found out, which is nuts, how the university found out about this. How the university, they started this like investigation is because apparently Sharon Moore had DoorDashed Plan B to his office in Michigan like an idiot. And so obviously that sparks interest on the university's part where they're starting to look into this. They're like, wait, what? What are you doing, dude? And they find out that he's having a relationship with one of the assistants, his assistant on the team. And yeah, it's pretty bad. Pretty bad situation where she was on salary. And not only was she on salary, she was making $55K a year before he became the head coach. And then when he did become the head coach, her salary jumped up by 55%. It went from $55K a year to $90K a year, which is just absurd. But let's get into the story. Let's get into the story by ESPN. Let's see what they have to say.
And it was stunning news out of Ann Arbor as the University of Michigan has fired Sharon Moore as its head football coach earlier Wednesday following an investigation into Moore's conduct with a staff member. Following his dismissal Moore was detained by police in Saline, Michigan, and was later in custody at the Washtenaw County Jail as a suspect in an alleged assault. Police said he remains in custody at this time. We welcome in Dan Wessel, ESPN senior writer and contributor to the College Game Day podcast, based in Michigan. And Dan, there are a number of layers to this story which you have been reporting throughout the day. Let's work our way backwards with the timeline, which now includes a police report that sheds a bit of light. What do you understand about that timeline, as I say, working our way backwards?
Okay, so Michigan concluded an investigation into Sharon Moore earlier Wednesday and determined with credible evidence that he had had a inappropriate relationship with a staff member against university policy and his own contract, and he was immediately fired for cause. Soon after that, at about 4:10 p.m., Pittsfield Township Police, just outside Ann Arbor, responded to a call to residents where they were there to investigate an alleged assault. Sharon Moore had left the place at that time and was later detained.
Wait, Pittsfield Police responded at 4:10 p.m. Wednesday to the 3000 block. Ooh.
As you said, by the Saline Police Department, which is another town a little bit outside of Ann Arbor, which then brought him back to Pittsfield Township. At 8:40 tonight, or 8:30 tonight, I'm sorry, he was brought to the Washtenaw County Jail, where he is in custody due to the alleged assault, and actual charges will be determined by the Washtenaw County Prosecutor's Office in the next day or so.
All right, so those are the very serious issues related to this storyline, and we will wait for the clarity and the details as they are forthcoming in the coming hours and days. As for the story, as we work our way back to what you mentioned, which is the firing of Sharon Moore, and I just want to be frank here. I mean, in college football circles, this was not a closely held secret. There was a lot of smoke, a lot of innuendo, but you all aren't in the business of reporting that. So I guess what I'm going to ask as it relates to this dismissal and the investigation is, when was it that Michigan really felt like they might be in the business of needing to find a new head coach?
Well, I think the investigation began, recently, at least this part of the investigation into Sharon Moore's conduct at least over a week ago. And, like they said in their statement, you need credible evidence to make a firing, particularly for a cause of this situation. It's a very sensitive situation for everyone involved. And so that's when it took time. But I agree, there was a lot of rumors, there was a lot of gossip. It wasn't necessarily a closely held secret, but Michigan had their investigation. This is when they came up with in early December.
And again, there are so many layers to this, some legal and some as it just relates to the football program. And just to focus on the football piece of this, you've just had signing day. You've just had this wild cycle that seems...
Dude, this is going to destroy the program. Bro, they're so fucked. Dude, Michigan's screwed, dude. Like, brother, they have to go get a new head coach. All the players are going to transfer out. They're going to it's all new coaches, because when the head coach is gone, then an all new coaching staff comes in. It's just like, it's tough, dude. This is unfortunate too, because not only does this affect the players that are currently there, this also affects the coaching staff that's currently there too. Because when Michigan is going to most likely, the University of Michigan is going to just hire a coach from another program that's going to come in and just bring in all of their new coaching staff. And so simply that's what's going to happen. And you're going to see that happen with Michigan. You're going to see the whole coaching staff get replaced, so they all lose their jobs. So now they got to go find new jobs, and it's not like they have another head coach they could flock to now. So they got to go find a new head coach to go work for. So, dude, it is a total mess. It totally is just so bad for the team. It's so selfish from this guy, from Sharon Moore. What a piece of shit. Yeah, it's really bad.
jobs at Penn State and LSU and Florida and on and on and on come open. And now here comes Michigan, which is one of the crown jewels in the sport. And I don't know who will be making the hire. There's a lot of questions regarding that. But just in terms, Dan, of the names that a program like Michigan might reasonably expect to be able to lure to Ann Arbor.
Get John Gruden in there.
Yeah, the timing here isn't the best for Michigan. Had they done this, had this situation, this job opened a month ago, they and LSU would have been the prime jobs to people have, and probably in a different candidate pool with each one of them. It is a school with enormous resources and potential, a lot of money, biggest stadium in the country, huge fan base, all of that. So it is an attractive job. The names that get thrown out right away, you hear about Kalen DeBoer at Alabama, but I've been told he's very comfortable there. He's got a great recruiting class coming in, alignment portal. He seems pretty happy there. There's a number of other possibilities, whether it's Jed Fish up at Washington or Eli Drinkwitz at Missouri, or who knows really. Any of those types of guys might be in, or they could go the NFL ranks. The issue for Michigan is a number of high-profile coaches and really desirable coaches just sign new deals either at the school they were at that may prevent all these guys that I just mentioned, or took new jobs. So instead of being the pick of the litter, they're coming in late on this cycle. But this is a very attractive job. I wouldn't be surprised if there was NFL interest in it. Harbaugh kind of proved that you can win big there and set up a system. So we'll see. It's going to be an interesting job hunt, but it's not the perfect of timing for the Wolverines.
He joined the Wolverines.
Good. I'm a Hawkeye, so if you're watching, I play football at Iowa, so I'm not. Fuck Michigan, dude. Yeah, no thanks. Yeah, crazy, dude. It's wild. Wild times. But yeah, I'm going to call it for that for a stream. Thanks for everybody for watching. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one. See you, everybody.